Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Universal Dialect Show, show number 27. And I have an awesome guest today. I met him, I think, around 2007. He's from Indiana. No, you're from Indiana. Yes, Indiana. I'm already messing this up, man.
That's all good.
After 27 shows, you figure I'd already have this down pat. But he's from Indiana. He dropped me his CD, his very first CD. Well, not his first CD, but this first CD that I heard him on Fly Your Favorite. Is it Fly Your Favorite or Fly Our Favorite or Fly?
It can be pronounced either way. That was the point of mushing the words together.
The mushing the words together.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then, I did a
Yours
review
are.
in Insomniac magazine. So I want to welcome ID Obelus. What's up, my brother?
What's up? Hey, I'm gonna go ahead and correct you there because everybody does this, and it's no harm, no foul. It's pronounced id as one word, obelisk.
It
There's a lot.
Obelus? Okay.
Id obelisk. Yeah, it's not an act. Well, it was an acronym, but it's always been pronounced id.
Okay, so it's
But
it. Damn, I've been saying that wrong
no,
for
it's all.
years.
Yeah, and even some homies.
Right.
Like, and you're no homie. Yeah, lots of people.
No, but I
I
mean, if you see
should
it
have picked the
online,
easier rap name. That's for sure.
no, but online. Sometimes it'll be I dot D dot in certain like interviews that you've done in the past.
For
It'll
real.
be I dot D dot, and then I thought it was separate, but my bad, bro. So it's Id Obelus.
Id
Gotcha.
obelisk.
Id
Yep.
Obelus.
Yep.
Okay, Id Obelus. Obelus. I gotta get this shit right, man.
That's all good, man. It's all good. Like I said, lots of people. It's meant to be butchered, I guess. So
So you're MC, rapper slash label owner of Audio Recon, and you're an art archivist, right?
yeah, that
Okay.
sounds good.
So Id Obelus, could you please go into and don't leave any details out, your origin story? Like how did this all start for you and what led you on the path you are currently on?
Well, yeah. It's it. I started getting into hip hop in the early to mid '80s. So I grew up here in Indiana, rural Indiana, to be precise, and like in the north central part of Indiana.
Right.
So not a lot of hip hop uh around here. I don't to be honest, I think I first heard rapping on like the breakdance rap when breaking was being commercialized and getting watered down versions started to pop up into commercials and shit in the early '80s. So that dates me a little bit. I was born in '75, so my first rap tape was Run DMC Raising Hell, which was the big crossover for rap music. I think was when it started to reach into the far reaches of all of North America. So yeah, I became infatuated with rap and hip hop at a very early age. It was one of just a handful of kids in my small hometown that actually got into rap music. It's kind of an outsider for it, and got a lot of backlash from the hillbillies in my neck of the woods. But I just, here I am 3 decades later, just still obsessed with the stuff. Id Obelus I landed on that rap name many years after, different variations of rap names that when the internet started changing the forefront of music and started discovering music online. I originally went by Infrared Doses, and that was just a play off of a Grateful Dead song, Infrared Roses. And in college, I was nicknamed Doses for reasons we won't get into.
Right.
And so anyway, I
You
just
get
kind of
into
played
them
on
if
it.
you want.
Yeah, we'll just Doses was yeah, just we were there was a lot of psychedelics but were dealt with in college
No,
and
you're good, bro. I'm looking into psychedelics actually.
yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely have some positive. I think at that, someone wrote a song about when you're young and doing that sort of thing, you don't really get the full effects of it because your brain's developing and you're not ready for it. So, but I mean, I think it did change the way my perspective on just my outlook on life, and I feel it made me a better person as far as the way I view the world. I'm
Right.
more open minded. I feel like that it's shaped the way I listen to music and appreciate art. So yeah, I mean, it definitely has I've, some benefits for sure. Um, but when you're a young kid, I don't know if you're truly ready to receive all the benefits it can give you. You know, your mind's not really developing. So
Right, you're not mature enough.
right. So anyway, yeah. So that's how I got into hip hop, was just Yo MTV Raps, and any I growing up in a very small rural town, I would just kind of look at the tape section and find names that popped out, like, oh, that's got to be a rap dude. You know, it's got MC in front of his name,
Right.
or D at the end of his name. You know, and I go down rabbit holes of all types of rap music, of what I liked. The early '80s, the New York stuff was popping off. Eric B. Rakim, Big Daddy Kane. I was a band member of the Juice Crew All Stars.
No way.
I'd get like their gear in the mail and shit. So I'd look at cassettes and join the mailing list of any rap I was into, and I was into pretty much everything and all of it, even down to the Miami bass stuff when Two Life Crew popped off.
Right.
Like I was telling you earlier before we started this, we'd go down to Florida in the summers. My dad was him and his homies were into scuba diving. We would go down to the Keys, and they would dive for lobsters and bring them back here to sell, and it would pay for their vacation for the summer. They go down there for a week in the summer, and my dad was the only one with kids, so me and my older brother would go down there. And me being a rap head, I'd hear like the shit they were playing at the pool hall at the campground we stayed at, and it was like the Miami bass shit, the Gucci Crew 2s and that sort of shit. And because it was rap, I dug it.
Right.
So I'd go down those rabbit holes. So anyway, I don't know. So that's you said leave no stone unturned.
No.
But
yeah, if you could go into more detail, go into more detail. But if that's all you got, then we'll move on to the next part.
yeah, man. So anyway, here I am, 30 years later, 47 years old, and still into this rap shit, and still dabbling into it myself. And obviously I run this label. It's more about putting out the music I'm into, and trying to support artists that I feel deserve to be doing this full time, and trying to help them bring their music to physical formats. So
right. So your approach when you first started rapping, was that the same like it is now, to kind of like just do music for you, do art for you, rather than just follow what everybody else is doing?
Oh no, not necessarily. I mean, I started rapping, and say the first shit I did was around '86 or so, and it was a homie of mine from school, and we had no gear. We would like literally make beats banging on the floor, and taking a boom box and hitting record. And I was emulating what I was listening to. I was trying to be Houdini, or I was trying to be Gucci Crew 2 or whatever. Even at that age, 12, 13 years old, I was, listening to the stuff that had explicit lyrics. Would be like, oh, you were unveiling this world of stuff that was kind of secretive. And so like we would do, cheesy, dirty raps, just emulating what we're into. So it was the growing process. You started out just kind of trying to imitate, and then I think it was years later, probably took a decade before I started trying to push the boundaries of music and just be more myself. Look deep within and try to make music for me and only me. And if people appreciated that, then it's been great. So it took a lot of growing to get to that point, though, for sure.
Right. So when you were coming up, was there a scene like that was developing, or there was no scene at all? Because okay, so there's two groups, or I wouldn't say there's one group for sure from Indianapolis, Indiana, called the Mud Kids. I don't know if you know who they are.
Yep.
And I didn't catch them till later. I didn't catch them until like late '90s, early 2000s. And then there was another. I don't know if it was one guy, DJ Paranorm and Strychnine.
Yep.
They're from Gary, I believe.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's that. Are you sure about that? Because I thought maybe South Bend, but I don't know them personally, but I'm familiar with their music.
Right.
Because they'd had that thing on Grand Royal, right? They had a single on Grand Royal.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure the dude was. I thought he was from South Bend, but yeah, and the Mud Kids were the Indiana rap group in the mid '90s, ish, I'd say, or mid to late '90s.
Right. So was there any like was there like a scene blowing up that you were
So, like I said, I came from
noticing?
rural Indiana, so I
Right.
was never involved in any scenes coming up in the '80s listening to rap music. It was just me and my buddy that liked rap, a couple buddies, but me and one, my best friend in particular, that tried to make music. And I'm saying try to make music because we would
Right.
definitely, I would never, I would never want to anybody to hear what we were coming up with at that young tender age. When I started actually recording music and trying to push it online and taking it serious, it was until like '99 ish or so.
Right.
Uh, and it, even then, I was more of a bedroom MC. I think when we first met, I think I probably was just starting to get some, get noticed by others in my state and starting to get invited to play some shows and
Right.
such. So
And that's with this album, right?
correct. Yes,
Okay.
sir. Yeah. So that was what 2007, and so I had 3 releases before that as ID Obelus. They were
Right.
DIY CDRs that I sold online. I used to run a little web store online too.
What was
Uh,
that? What was that
it's
called?
called Fresh Wraps.
Yeah, I
Before.
think yeah, I
Yeah,
think I used to order stuff from there.
word. Okay, so yeah, it was it's funny because I was just talking to the dude that ran ATAC recently,
Yeah,
and like,
dude, I just friended Primus, right?
yeah, it's Paul. Yeah, Paul Gambis.
Paul, yeah.
Yep. P minus. Yep.
P
Yep.
minus, that's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway, so like, those sites were where I ordered all my hip hop during that
Right.
era, and .coms were, I was a low budget dude. Everything was DIY. Never had the money to like really to press that. That was the first official pressing I did of a CD, and it was with our tax. My wife allowed me to use our tax return to press that,
Right.
and so it was like my big jump off. But anyway, I started this website for dudes like me that, because some of those sites like that, it had to be official. It had to be a manufactured CD, so they were able to weed out the people who weren't quote unquote serious about things, uh, or in the people like me and some of the folks I was working with. It was more about we just didn't have the capital or money to press things. It wasn't that we weren't serious. We were just getting our legs. So I started that site. It was a cjb.net. If you remember those, they were
Yeah.
like, it was the free website of the world, and you could host stuff on their platform, and
It
that's
was
how
like
I
the
met.
Wix before Wix came out.
Correct. Yeah. So there was a few of those in the underground era. I remember like Joe Raff and all these other like dudes that I followed that had cjb.net sites. So anyway, yeah, I ran that site, and that's how I met a lot of some of my homies I still work with to this day, like the Dreadnoughts, and I still talk to like Babelfish. I used to do stuff with them.
Babelfish, yeah, and then Dreadnoughts, they're from Minnesota, I believe.
They're from Pittsburgh
They're from Pittsburgh.
originally.
Okay.
They've kind of
Wait, which
they're
Dreadnoughts? There's a couple of Dreadnoughts out there.
oh, it's the Dreadnoughts without the K. The original there was the Dreadnoughts before them with the K. Uh, this is Dreadnoughts. It's Oblio, Davey, and Eric Yeshke and Chris Coleman. Now kind of by affiliates, me and this dude Authentic from Japan. That's still we're actually working on an album right now.
All right, that's
Uh,
dope.
yep. So they're those dudes. I've known them since that early 2000s, the fresh rap stuff. So I
Yeah,
don't know,
I mean,
man. I got off of the beaten path.
no, there's no such thing as a path, bro. We're just doing our thing, man. I mean, okay, so like you had that site out. I remember also there was a site called fullblown.com. There was
Yep.
ATAC, like you said. There was what's that one? Damn, I can't
Hip Hop
remember.
Infinity is probably what you're thinking of.
Hip Hop Infinity. There was hiphopsite.com. There was
True Hip
one
Hop
that,
was like the second iteration of ATAC was True Hip Hop, I think, and then there's
yeah,
undergroundhiphop.com. But yeah, I mean, so that was those were the days, that's how I did all my music discovery during that era. There was just so much underground rap to be discovered during that
right.
time. So
Right. So I mean, once you started doing your thing and you started, I guess, traveling within your state, I would imagine there was other groups from other states that were coming down too to try to showcase, like,
Yeah.
because you're in what they call Midway, so you're by Chicago, you're by Minnesota, the Twin Cities. I would imagine you bumped heads with a lot of those artists, a lot of those underground artists, and exchange stuff.
Yeah, I mean to a degree, because I mean I never toured on any level, because when I started getting serious about my music, also my firstborn, Callie was born. She's 22 now, so I
Wow.
was I was always like I said, more of a bedroom rapper guy. I'd go to show, I would do one-off shows. I'd do weekend shows in the area. I would play like Indianapolis, Lafayette, which is what Purdue University is, Fort Wayne. Um, uh, that's pretty much. I mean, for Indiana, that's basically the three spots I would play shows, and around here a little bit later with my band and stuff. I would play more. I started playing more local stuff, but right, in this rural area, it's not really a hip hop, not much of a hip hop scene, or even people that want to hear this shit. So I'd
Right.
always have to go to the cities to play it. I would bring acts from out of town a little bit for some of my shows. Like that's how I met MC Homeless, who I still work with today, and,
Right.
and I put out his music on my label. He is from Ohio originally. He's out east in North Carolina, but he's one dude I can notably remember bringing to town. This dude Dante LaSalle from Detroit. I remember bringing him down for some shows in Lafayette. So Quell and those, like the dudes from Galapagos 4 can't. I remember
Right.
I opened it up for them in Lafayette. So yeah. I mean, most of my connections though were made online, because like I said, I'm sitting here in an area where there's not a lot of hip hop, so I had to kind of look outwardly to
Right.
find shit that like was in the same vein, or and people I wanted to work with are usually
Did you eventually go out of Indiana eventually?
not very much, just one-off stuff. Like I would find ways if I was traveling for some other reason, whether it be a family vacation or for work, for my day job.
Right.
I would usually plot a show, if I knew people in an area. So I went to Pitts back in that era.
Right.
I'd go up. I went up to Michigan and played some shows with and this dude. I don't remember. Do you remember Mind One?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was kind of one of the early dudes I collaborated with, and he hosted seems like one or two shows up in Michigan, and I did a couple shows in Pittsburgh with the Dreadnoughts.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, mine one I think is affiliated with like I hate that I'm forgetting names, man. Um what's his face? One Man Army.
okay,
Binary Star, that group Binary Star. I think he's loosely like affiliated with what's Slum Village, like some of the cats in Slum Village, if I'm not
I think we're
mistaken.
speaking of a different dude. To be honest with you, this is Mind One, spelled like
Okay, it's a
MYNDWUN.
different, yeah, it's a
Yeah,
different
not
guy.
totally different guy. Yeah.
There's so many names,
Yeah,
bro.
and this guy is mine. I don't know what if he even he goes by Rob the Verb now, I think, and I don't know if he really even. I mean, I'm sure he dabbles in music because
Right.
none of us ever give it up. But I don't know if he does anything of, I haven't heard from him in a while. And the last I knew, he was out east in like North Carolina area as well, like driving it. Oh, he's in Asheville. Last I talked to him, he was here a few years back. I was at a hip hop festival in Indianapolis, and how somehow we reconnected online. And he's like, "Man, I'm on a road trip right now, and I'm actually gonna be passing through Indiana." And I was like, word, I'm at this festival actually
Right.
in Indianapolis. You're gonna pass through," and he actually passed through, and we linked up for a short minute and just took a couple selfies, and he went about his
Right.
way. But he was just driving up through here, so uh, kind
Yeah,
of weird.
it just shows how deep the independent scene was that you had probably like 10 Mind One guys,
Yeah,
probably
yeah, absolutely,
all over the world, probably.
absolutely.
So let's get into your journey as an artist, dude. Your first project, your first official project, what was it?
It, as it Obelus, well, as it Obelus, or just as a
Yeah.
rapper in general. Okay, as it Obelus, my first project was called Two Bit Fugue, and it was just a CDR type thing that I put together. And that was around 2002. Um,
Wow.
yeah. And it was, right at the inception of, well, I think that first got online around 99 or so, but so I had been online for a couple years, dial up type
Yeah,
internet,
I
right?
remember.
And made some connections with artists across the globe that I was into. I felt like we're doing, this kind of avant-garde left field rap in the same vein as me. And, so I was able to do some collaborations and find producers that I wanted to work. I'd say that was the first project, my first official project where I did have something before that under a different moniker
And
where
what was
I
that?
tried to, I went by infrared doses,
Okay.
and I had one project under that. Well, I had a couple one kind of official thing. Do you remember mp3.com?
Yeah, I used to go on there and down. That's how I found Old Dominion from the West Coast. Found them. I found a bunch of artists off of mp3.com.
Okay, so that was like on mp3.com. I was infrared doses, and
I probably downloaded your MP3. I wouldn't doubt it if I downloaded it.
oh, you probably got rid of it. It was pretty bad because I tried to do my own production, and I was
Right.
doing it with like the pre-packed loops from Acid Music.
Right.
Fucking bad. So luckily, some people took note and liked, what I was doing rapping wise, and started sending me production with that album I did on mp3.com.
Oh, so they were helping you out. They were like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
you
they're
need
helping me.
production, bro."
They're coming through like, so I ended up hanging up my production hat really quick
Right.
because I started meeting dope producers,
Right.
and people were sending me beats and finding people to collaborate with. So, 2-Bit Fugue would have been like the first iteration of ID Obelus with other people's production and working with others. And we did it all online for the most part. People sending each other verses over dial-up internet, and so that would be the jump off point. I had that, and I had after that was There's Blood in the Ashtray, which was my second album, and it was the way it got its name. It had nothing to do with anything on the record except for I had I think I might have shared the album in like its draft form to. I had this message board and a crew of like homies that we worked together. We called our collective Else Music at the time, and I think it was one of the dudes from the message board that named the record. I kind of put a thing out there. Hey, I need
Right.
kind of figure out a name for this record. I'm gonna take the best, whoever has the best name for it, and that's what we landed on.
So on your first project as ID Obelus,
Mhm.
was it just you? Did you have cameos on there? You did all the production, or you already had people doing production for you?
I had I've been the first album that I actually had guest production. It was all guest production. I don't think I produced anything on that. There was some guests. I had Noah 23
Yep.
on a song on that
Canada?
record. Yeah, from Canada. He's from
Yep.
Guelph. Originally, he was born in Mississippi and moved to Guelph as a kid, I think. But yeah, Canadian, legend. And Il Sear, also from Canada. He was, man. I think I don't think he's really. He's like a preacher now.
Illseer is Ilsseer.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah,
and he
I
used to
remember.
work with the Delegates of Culture from the UK.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was on that, and had production by. Fuck, I'd have to. Man, I probably should. To that's probably
No, you're good, bro. Don't worry about
I'm
it.
trying to think who was all on. I don't want to leave anybody out. I know Ellipsis, my homie from. Well, he was from Wisconsin at the time. I think everybody must be moving to North Carolina because he's in North Carolina too.
North Cackalack, man. That's the place
Yeah,
to
none
be,
of
I
these
guess.
guys are like. I don't think they really know each other. It's like all my old rap homies moved to North Carolina. Uh, but I think that was it for guests. We had that might have been the posse. No, I did have that posse cover. That Elias Wallace was on it. A super weird one was the Else Music crew. One of the producers was a young Todd T. He's like a pretty big grime UK kind of. He does that like reggaeton grime style shit now, and he's like got a show on the BBC. So he kind of blew up, but he was one of our in-house. Yeah, he was one of those. He was one of our in-house producers when we were.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah,
that's cool. Actually,
and he was just a young, he was probably like the youngest dude of us all,
right?
Like 15 or 16 years old. Just just starting to make hip hop production, and so obviously he must have grew out of what we were doing, and we were all kind of establishing ourselves, and we're already, I think we were probably all in what, see, that would have been in the 90s. What had I been in my late 20s, right?
Right.
So late 20s, early 30s. So he moved on to do bigger and better things and different stuff. So
So
yeah.
what was the project after that? After that, your first
After
one?
Two Bit Fugue was that There's Blood in the Ashtray. Very
Right.
similar project. I just a lot more collaborations on that one.
And who were some of the ones that stick out to you, the individuals you worked with?
That would have been the first project that had Babelfish on a track,
Right.
which I was, always tried to work with the cats I was, big fans of as well, and that were accessible. There were some people that were out of my reach probably at the time. So, but though, they were homies that I had worked with the store and shit. So, yeah. Man, that's the album. So from 2003, I can't remember what else. I just remember Babelfish was on that one.
Dude, I'm forgetting
Some of the
stuff
dudes
too.
from Plague Language, like the early Plague Language stuff. I don't know if they're still even active anymore. Noah, ran that label, and there was this group called Twin Sister, and I think it was the MC was Naval Aviator. I think I know he produced a track on 2-Bit Fugue as well, or not 2-Bit Fugue, but There's Blood in the Ashtray. Yeah, that's all I can think of right now, man. I'm sorry.
No, you're good, man. I mean, I'm forgetting things too because I remember Plague Language. They released a compilation back then called Archetypes, something Archetypes. And
oh yeah, the Farewell Archetypes.
Yeah,
good record. Yep.
Yeah, that was dope, man. I remember that. Who was the guy that ran it? Was it Noah that ran it, or was it somebody else? I could have sworn it was another person that ran
the label. I think
yeah.
it was both Noah and Orphan at the time.
Orphan, that's it.
Which
Orphan.
He went on to man. I'm not the expert, but he changed his name, right? He was part of Blue Sky Black Death production.
Yeah, that Infinity Gauntlet sort of like a group. They made beats, Blue Sky Black Death.
Yep.
They did albums for like Onyx and shit like that not too long ago.
Yeah, I know they blew up and on some kind of level, but I can't remember what he does what his production name is now. I mean, I should know, but he used to go by the Orphan. It was, I think it was him. I think it was him and Noah that pretty much ran the label. There was Barracuda, the other artists in it were
Barracuda 72, was it right?
Barracuda 72 and Livestock, Hilarious Livestock, Tree Vortex.
Yeah, I remember.
I don't know what happened. Just the name, all those names were like interstellar.
Yeah,
celestial, weird.
That was the time, unique. Bro, and people came out with these like really obscure sort of names, man.
Hey, okay, so give me 1 second, bro.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm still with you. Because I'm feeling out of my element. You're asking about old shit that I don't even remember. And I think I got that shit.
This is how real interviews go, man. They're not fabricated. Man. They're not fake. This is real shit.
Now I got. You're asking me questions I can't answer, so
now you got it.
This is the original CDR sleeper. There's Blood in the Ashtray.
You have still copies of a lot of those things?
Yeah, I keep. It's in a bad way. It's in one of these CD books, but I still got one single copy of all my old shit.
Okay.
So I had.
I was gonna send you money for copies, man.
Huh?
I was gonna send you money for some copies. I thought you had extra copies.
Yeah, I don't think if I have doubles, I'll let you know after this, man.
Yeah, let me know, man.
I think for the most part, all this old shit, I have my singular personal copies.
Let me see that cover that you just showed up. That was really dope, man. Was it like?
Shit. Well, I have like a fuzzy background, don't I? I don't know how to fix that.
There you go.
Yeah, I'll send you a picture of it.
No, it's all good, brother. It's all good.
A dude that I worked with in the factory at the time drew that. Like we would work a machine and like in between pulling parts, you'd have like a 15-minute wait for the parts to cool, and you'd kick back and you'd read a book or whatever, or listen to music. I'd write rhymes sometimes, and I I asked him to draw my album art. I was, working on this album, and
Right.
he drew this while
That's
we were
dope.
operating the machine. But yeah, that was cloud surfing. That was the first official the mp3.com thing I was telling you about earlier.
It's called
So
cloud surfing.
cloud surfing was the name
Right.
of it. Yeah. And I had another thing as infrared doses called talking to machines. Uh, it was just yeah, more of an EP type deal.
Right.
And then went on to Two Bit Fugue, and then we're up to this my second Ed Obelus record. There's Blood in the Ashtray. Trying to see who was on here. So Babelfish was on here. E9 at the time was like the producer that Babelfish was working with. He was a dude from Seattle. They had a group called Scotch Tape Portraits.
I don't know. I don't know who that is. No.
Yeah, I don't think he's active anymore. I mean, Babelfish still is. I still talk to him. Yeah. He's getting in. He does more like sludge kind of. I wouldn't even. I think he does rap still, but does some like more punk kind of aggressive music's pretty dope. This dude Octo 40 did a beat. I don't know what happened to him. I remember having dope production. Ellipsis, my homie, that's the dude from Wisconsin that
Right.
used to go by Paul Mack. Earl Hines, Ketchup, the homie. He now goes by Sean 187. He's from Kitchener in Canada, Ontario. Todd Latee, the dude we were talking about earlier, that the big grime dude now. Binary Scribes was this group from Iowa.
That sounds familiar.
They were from Iowa. The dude he changed his name several times. At the time went by Professor De Recho. He's down in Mexico. He lives in Mexico now. He did production on my new record, the Place Pieces.
Right.
Now he goes by Kick You VF.
Do you know Maxilla Blue?
Yeah, that was he used to go. That's A and Gray, right? The MC,
yeah,
or does the production for Maxilla Blue?
Yeah.
Was he on this record? He was on the first one we talked about. That would have been a notable one on.
Yeah, because I remember Aeon Gray being on, because Iowa, again, another, like very much like Indiana, they got a little scene going on. They were really dope artists.
Yeah. That's the one I don't have in here for some reason. I don't have 2-Bit Fugue in here. Yeah, he used to go by No One, Aeon Gray, in our infancy stage, learning to get our legs. When mp3.com days, he was No One. And
I might have one of his CDs.
Yeah, as No One, he had a record called Lousy Person. So I was a fan of his shit.
I have one of them, man. I know I have Primate Curriculum from Aeon Gray, but
yep,
and a bunch of other ones too. And Maxilla Blue, that was a great album. But yeah, go ahead, keep on with the list.
So that was the dude I worked with back then. I haven't talked to him in years either. I don't know if he's still done stuff, but actually during the Aeon Gray area, he was doing his own thing, and I hadn't worked. I only worked with him before that era when he was a no-namer, and there was another dude from that area went by Paul Moses, and now he's a barber over there. I think we're still linked on Instagram, and he's a barber now. But
that's crazy, man. So then, did Fly Your Favorite come after that?
No, there's one more as it was called 88 Oranges.
I remember that.
I thought maybe we linked on this record instead of Fly Your Favorite.
That might have been the first review I did, and then I did Fly Your Favorite after. But I think that was the first. But I was looking through my collection. I got tired because I have so many CDs, but I just could not find that album. I just couldn't find it.
Oh, good, man. This is like ancient material, man.
I know, but I mean, it would be awesome to have. You know what I mean? Like, look, dude. I mean, I know I have more. I mean, I have this, and then I have this.
Oh, nice.
And there's more, but I mean, I just can't find them. I have so many fucking CDs and shit.
Well, after this, if I could turn up other copies, there may be represses of some of this stuff. Some of this stuff deserves to fade away.
You should re-release them, man, and do like some sort of like package with like a Id Obelus shirt or like some sort of like package deal. You get like this cool maybe box, and then you open it and it's got all your shit in it with your discography from back in the days, get like a free shirt, maybe a skull cap with ID Obelus on it. That'd be kind of dope.
With someone else, yeah, maybe specifically for you, we'll put that together because I don't know if everybody, I don't know if anybody but you is asking for that, my brother.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. So what was the deal on that album? 88
This
Orange.
one, this was 88 Oranges. I at the time, I mean, felt like I kept leveling up, and this would have been I was coming into my own and thought I was really onto something. This is 2004. I was still running Fresh Raps because I say fresh. I have Fresh Raps handwritten on there in the back.
That's dope, man.
I drew all the art for this and pieced it together with like a lot. You can see I used the Reese's Pieces wrapper to flip that, make it.
Right. Was this back in the day when you used to go to like Kinko's and kind of mesh shit together?
Yeah, 100%. I think I might have used the copier. There was the front office at my job at the factory. Right. I could use the copy machine, and I would tape shit together and put it on the copy machine and yeah,
that was Photoshop back then.
Yeah, that was absolutely Photoshop. So who was all on it? There was Push the Button. That was Earl Hines. Produced that. Tyson. That was a dude. He was from like out by LA. I don't know what happened to him. This probably the first record I worked with. No, the Mole was on 2-Bit Fugue too. He produced a track on there. So there's probably the first one he rapped on with me was on this. The Mole, right? Yeah. Yeah, that song Orange Everything. I mean, he did the hook on it and rapped on it, and Earl Hines produced that. Psalm 101. That might have been my first work with Nomar, maybe. I mean, Nomar was there from the inception as well. Nomar Slevik.
So. I love Nomar. That's my dude.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I did my homework. I did start to listen to the one. I saw you had an episode of this with him. I started to listen to it. I need to finish it. So
yeah, he's like okay. So I knew him only as an MC. And I had inklings that he was into the paranormal, but I didn't know that he had experiences. And then he eventually became, now where he does investigations now. But I mean, I've always loved Nomar. Nomar has always been the dude, man.
Yeah, absolute same. He did. He used to be my go-to source too. Shouts to Nomar. He would
hell yeah.
Like on the free would always be the dude I would go to mix and master my stuff in the early ages, because I never have had an ear for actually mixing down tracks and shit.
How did you meet him?
Online through probably through the Mole, through Motion Recordings and working with the Mole. And I know, yeah, the Mole had his own little label at the time when I was doing I think Fresh Raps and Else Music. And so we just, similar circles. We were all into the same, types of music. Like we were talking earlier, all those sites, in the message boards of that era. The Anacon message board was a big one that everybody kind of found common ground on. And so I think, through that stuff, I met him online through, like I said, probably through the Mole. That's how we linked up. But and actually, back to the Dreadnoughts, that would probably been how I'm pretty sure that's how I first heard the Dreadnoughts was on Nomar's first record, Purple Lights and April Foolishness.
Yeah,
they were on two. They produced and were on two of the tracks on that record, which were my favorites. I was like, holy shit, this is like perfect sound. And like, oh, that's these guys, the Dreadnoughts, anyway. So I think that's how I first heard them and started following their music and linking up with them. So Nomar was on this as well. Cognition. Do you remember that dude? He was like homies is like the Escape Artists. Do you remember the Escape Artists? They were another West Coast
X Circles and all of them.
Yeah.
They had a female rapper. I forgot what her name was.
That's Circles' wife now. It was a Muse.
Yep, they were dope. They're dope.
Yeah, super dope. I don't know if we're ever gonna get into talking about Audio Recon, but we reissued.
We're gonna talk about it, bro.
Wait, how long are these, like long form podcasts?
Dude, I don't really put a time limit on it, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I want to expose you, man. I want you
Sure.
out there. I want to like, because I mean, everybody that I have on are like my favorite people that I either follow or I listen to, whether they're rap or paranormal. I try to get the people that I'm interested in, you know what I mean, or the people that I've built with throughout the years. And so there's no format of like length of time. It's really up to you. If you can
Word.
go 2 hours, then we're doing 2 hours. I mean, this is what I do, bro. I write questions and I try to get through them as and it's usually front and back, and I try to get through them as quickly as I can, but not to drag it out per se. You know what I
Right.
mean? But
Right.
there's no format, it's just homies talking. That's basically it. We're just
Word.
shooting the shit.
Perfect. That's perfect for me because I'm not. I don't do these interview type things. I need to plug this in though. I'm seeing
Go
this.
ahead, go ahead.
I
You in your
don't.
basement?
Now this is my attic. This is the rap attic.
Damn, I
We
need
just moved here last January,
yeah.
and I finally got my own space.
I need one. I need a space, bro, really bad. Look at me. I got like little cute bears behind me, man. I'm in my bedroom, man.
Nice. Hey, it's still space though, right? You got your setup right.
It's something. I can't complain, but I mean, I wish I had like my own space. Your volume's off, bro. I can't hear you. All right, everybody. This is how live shit goes down. You always have these little kinks, it happens.
Hey, shit.
There you go. I
Test
I
test.
can hear
Can
you
you hear me
now.
now?
Yeah, brother.
No. No. They can't hear me.
Who? Hello? Yeah, now I heard you for a little bit, but then like I can't hear you now. It was weird. You were complaining. I heard you complaining about it, and then all of a sudden now I can't hear you. It's all right, man. We'll figure it out.
That
There you go. You see, when you move I can hear you.
the issue is I'm gonna have to run down and get my power cord.
Go ahead.
Can you
Go
pause this
get it.
thing?
Yeah, yeah. Don't worry about it. I can edit this out. That's the beauty of video editing.
All right, I'll be right back. Let me get
Yeah.
power cord because
Don't worry about it.
my
If you
docking
need,
station is trying to switch
yeah.
to my
No, it's cool. If you
DAO.
gotta take a leak or whatever, because I'm gonna go take a leak, go do what you gotta do if you want to get a drink or something. All right.
Sounds good. I'll tap
All
back
right.
in. Like, give me 5.
Yeah, no worries. I got you. I'll be back. All right, everybody. We're back. Back with ID Obelus, not ID Obelus.
All good. Hey, good job, man. Did you write a note and put
Dude, literally, I underlined it. Make sure, man. I can't fuck up, man.
I appreciate that.
No, it's all good, brother. All right, so where we left off. I think your third album, jumping into Fly Your Favorite, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. I pretty much we touched on it, right? 88 Oranges was my third, and then Fire Favorite has been my fourth record.
Okay, so to me, when I heard that, um, I listen to the music and it inspires me. I absorb the lyrics and all of that. To me, you came off like an alternative rap version of Keith Haring. I don't know if you know who Keith Haring is. This like avant-garde like graffiti artist from back in the days, like New York in the days. That's how you like when I see that album, when I look at the album cover, that's what it reminds me. It reminds me of like a Keith Haring, like a lyrical Keith Haring piece, right? So talk about that album. How did that album come to fruition? Like the recording part of it, who was on
Yeah.
it?
So yeah. Man, let me get that one in front of me so I can.
No, it's all good. Plus, not only that, you were on a different label. You were on Sick Records on that one, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And they're
And
from Hawaii, yes?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would say this would be. I I feel like it was when I was finally taking my shit seriously. It was more like everything prior to this was bedroom DIY. Not to say this wasn't. It was aesthetically the same. I was putting together originally, and I was a little bit of my process on records, and I still do it to this day. Is there will probably be a dozen iterations of an album before I release it at least. I'm usually it's like a audio notepad sort of. I'll be
Right.
putting down ideas. I'll record like rough drafts of songs, and I piece the songs together in the order I want, and add little nuances and things to tie songs together. I always liked, as you can tell, I'm sure from what you've heard of my music, always like a constant flowing piece of music, and I like it to be taken in as one art piece, so to
Right.
speak. Like from start to finish. So this record, what I think gave it a little bit more polished edge is I worked heavily with Oblio from the Dreadnoughts on it. I actually flew. That was I went to Pittsburgh and recorded a good portion of this record was recorded in an abandoned house right next to theirs, I think, at the time on Troy Hill in Pittsburgh. So it was, I think it had a more studio. He gave it a better studio sound, and his setup was way better than mine. And he just Oblio's a freaking scientist with it. He added a lot of the bells and whistles that gave it a really unique feel, and his signature's all over that record too. So shouts to Oblio.
How did you get on Sick Records? I mean, that's their Hawaiian record label. I mean, they do like independent rap too, but how did you get
Yeah.
hooked up with that?
But, oddly enough, I was a hyper politicker. With my on my web store and just put my shit out online and always trying to make connections with other artists. So I believe I sent them this record, like, or they reached out to me somehow some way at the very same time. Both Sick Records and Audio Recon, which it may sound weird because I run Audio Recon, but at the time it was founded by a different guy
Right.
that I did not know at the time. He reached out to me. So both kind of at the same time, these labels both reached out and said, "Hey, yeah, we want to put this record out." And I can't remember if I shopped it to Sick or if they reached out to me
Right.
on the strength of, but Nomar was already linked with those dudes. So that was kind of, I think, the connection with Sick is Nomar Slevik. I worked heavily with him, and they were putting out a record of his around the same time as well. That Sasquatch is Dying
Yeah,
record.
that's another one that I have. And then on the back of this seat, on it's a digipack. It's not a CD, but it doesn't say Audio Recon. It says Audio Reconnaissance, digital music. So I
Yep.
guess that's before they dropped the other part of it, and it just became Audio Recon.
Yep.
Let's talk about like the album cover. Was there a message behind that? You have like this dude holding a boombox, but he's got like Superman behind him, so it's almost like a mashup.
Yeah. Well, Albane, also known as now known as Albane, used to be known as DYN Din, or it's a brilliant surrealist artist from France. Used to do a lot of iconic hip hop underground artwork at the time, and
Right.
on past that, she started doing work with a lot of legends from the West Coast and stuff. But I think that I gave her the music, and I don't know if I gave her kind of this. I had this like super MC ethos. It was kind of this braggadocio, nerdy, artsy rap dude, but I kind of like tried to took elements of my
Right.
influence, like which is deeply rooted in rap and the competition side of rapping, and obviously put my own spin on it. So I don't know. I can't remember if I planted the seed because I think I think I did, because I believe I was originally calling this record, It Avla Super MC or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, it says
And
it on the back.
oh yeah,
It says Super MC on the back.
oh word, oh
And
word,
he also,
yeah, that's
he
right.
also has a belt buckle, like the old school belt buckles.
Yep,
And it says
yep.
Super, I think MC, because I think the MC part is cut off, but
So I can't say for certain that I even gave her maybe some nuggets and told her, hey, this is the record,
right.
whatever you come up with. So I believe that was mostly of her creation and her interpretation of what the hell.
Yeah, it's bugged out, man. I love covers like this because it makes you look at it. You have no choice but to like continue to break things down and look at it. It's like sort of like a half cyborg,
right?
half super MC.
Yeah, she killed that. She killed that art.
Yeah, it was dope. So who were some of the features on here other than Oblio?
Well, that was Circles from Escape Artist was on that record. Who else was on here? We had some stuff. Riff Raff. That was a dude. That was a producer from the Sick Records camp, I believe. And Nomar was on this as well, I believe, with some production.
Yeah, he did a lot of production on this.
Or I know he helped mix some. He was kind of my go-to. He'd mix some things down. Who else on there? DJ Pause. He's a New York dude. Remember the Neurologist?
Yeah,
Yeah, he was from the Neurologist.
I know the guy who like runs the Neurologist. I think he still does music actually.
Okay, so yeah, that Tokyo joint was him. It was produced by DJ Pause.
What's your favorite tracks on here? Mine is well, I have a lot of them, but Rural American Rap is fucking dope as fuck, man.
Oh, word.
Yeah,
Word, I appreciate that, man.
and then Atomic Hot Dog Gods, bro.
Yeah, I dug that one. Voyage from the Frontline was one of my favorites. That was that jump off joint with produced by Oblio as Circles from the Escape Artist. I really like 1991, 1987,
Yeah.
just because it was a personal kind of
Yeah.
trying to kind of tell my history
Yeah.
and through bars and kind of coming up in a small town and doing rap shit. So just how I came to be. So I was trying to break that down. I don't know, man. Without Use, I thought was dope. That was another one that was produced by used to be Professor DeRacho, now Kick You. That's when he first, I think, started going by Kick You VF, and to this day, I still talk to that guy. So
Ivid the Acid Eating Scuba Diver. That's such a dope name for a song, man.
I thought so too. So
It is so ill, man.
that was me trying to be Slick Rick, man. I was trying to tell a story in my own way.
Right. 99 dumb ways to die. Sure as hell, they're dumb, right?
Yeah, that's the Mind one I was talking about earlier.
Right.
He produced that joint. So
yeah, this whole album is literally like no pun intended, sick, man. This is a dope album, man. So
I appreciate that.
After Fly Your Favorite, what comes next?
That'd been Fly Your Favorite's 2007 Inevitable Crushing, which would have been like 2000. I don't know. Let's see. This is Inevitable Crushing. I'm pulling out
That's dope.
So this one I was executive produced by Oblio. I always tried to have one of the producers I was working with do the the final kind of piecing together with me. Like I'd put ideas together and like, hey, this, add your flair to it or whatever. So Oblio, I tasked on Fly Your Favorite to be that guy, and he killed it and took my ideas and ran with them and added his own stuff. So when I love that concept, and when I kind of consciously wanted to do that with other producers as I kept doing records. So on Inevitable Crushing, I reached out to Nomar. Nomar Slevic was the executive producer of this album, so he pieced it together when it was in its final form, and got the executive producer role on that. I was still working with the Sick dudes, but apparently this has probably been around when Sick they weren't putting out a lot, and I think they were kind of coming. They got a little bit ahead of themselves. I think tried to do too much too fast, and it just kind of burnt out really quick.
Yeah, they send me your album, but it came through them, and then they send me No More Slevic, The Great Dying, Sasquatch The Great Dying.
Yep.
And then they send me Hunger Pangs, which was another group on there, and then they sent me like maybe 3 or 4 more releases after that. I mean, they just kept sending me stuff, and I was like, man, that's a lot of material that in hindsight, yeah, it looks good. Like, oh, they're releasing a lot of stuff, but I'm now finding out from you it was just too much, I guess, for them, huh?
Maybe I don't like. Unfortunately, we'd have like a couple conference calls when they were, they were really ambitious out the gate. They were sending all of us artists and then street team dudes, like we were all kind of trying to be our own street team, and they were just printing out posters and postcards and business cards for everybody, and I think maybe just putting a lot of money into it out the gate, and how underground rap shit goes. It's just a big old money vacuum. So So I
That's why they
probably,
call us starving artists. We're always starving
yeah,
because we don't make money.
yeah. So they were really ambitious, and it just, I don't know what, I don't know if they continued to do shit locally for a while, but as far as I know, I just kind of came and went pretty quick. The only thing I had, Fly Your Favorite, and then we did that a mixtape. So I don't know if that might have came before this. I had a mixtape with DJ Bizkid from Germany, called the Fully Automatic Mixtape, and they released it out. They released it digitally on Sick, and I had a little CD. We had a CDR that was.
Does it have like a picture of a cassette on the cover?
That was that's Inevitable Crushing has the cassettes on the inside.
Okay.
I don't know if I have that
Because
one.
I have a Bizkid. I have a DJ Bizkid.
It's just me and him. It's like two different pictures that they put on the separate pictures they put on the cover. And it's got like graffiti, style, graph style writing of full. I don't know who did the art, but Fully Automatic. I think it was one of Bizkid's homies. I just essentially had this mixtape already done. It was just like random stuff that wasn't on an album, and I put it together, and as I do in mixtape form, kind of blended everything, and then I sent it to Bizkid, and he added cuts and shit, and then made it official. And Sick released that digitally, but not on any physical formats or anything. So, but anyway,
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so Inevitable Crushing was around that same time probably, and had been my second record, official record.
Yeah, I like the artwork on that. That's very dope, man.
Yeah, so this the artwork was Smear did it. I think he's in Northern California. He also goes by Smearbot online. He's part of that New Cocoon crew.
Yeah.
Those dudes. He did some production on this. The first track actually he produced, and he was, I think, doing like tattoo work and stuff. So I asked him to do the
Smear's
art
dope.
for it.
I have artwork. I have artwork from Smear somewhere over there, but
Word.
Because they had a group, I think, called Twilight Idols, if I'm not mistaken. And I bought that CD and I got a piece of artwork from it. But they also have like a lot of they're from Hawaii too, if I'm not mistaken.
I think they've got some artists. They got a whole bunch of people from all over the place, but a lot of them are from the West Coast. There's a lot of dudes involved in that, right? Wormhole,
Black Wolf, who used to be something else. His name is Black Wolf now. They're affiliated with a friend of mine named Void, who does beats. He started doing work, and Void is part of this group called Abstract Distortion, which my homeboy Quest the Unborn Child he's a part of that group. So like, I don't know if you ever heard of Paramono Recordings back in the days. Okay, so they're like kind of like I don't want to waste time, but anyway, they were started by this guy named Just Universal from Texas, but he branched out and he grabbed all these MCs from different places, like from Japan, and then he created this collective, and it's very similar to almost like Sick Records. Like they just put out a lot of material, and unfortunately, it just didn't hold up after all these years. Is your lights are messing around? You looking up at the lights?
No, I was looking. I was like, man, do I have one of those posters? I'm on my laptop, so I'm not gonna pick it up. But I got the old the Listen to Sick Records poster on the wall with all the.
Yeah, I might have like a postcard of that. I have the whole they send me a whole bunch of stuff. Sick Records.
There's a whole bunch of dudes. Most of them were from Hawaii, but there was some outliers with me and Nomar and Aim One. I think he was from Japan.
Right. There was one guy named Signifier?
Yeah. Signifier, yeah, he was an MC. Yeah. Staple Mouth was in the crew too.
Yep. Yeah, that man, they were putting out a lot of shit. That's all I can say, man. They were putting out a lot.
It was dope. I was honored to be a part of it. It was cool that they asked me, because I felt like I was on a come up when I put out Fly Your Favorite, because
Fly Your Favorite. It's so much different than your other releases. Like this is probably your, I don't know, you might not agree with this, but maybe your magnum opus of releases.
Yeah, people have said that during that time. I would say of maybe my Ed Obelus work. Yeah, at the time it was definitely my magnum opus. I feel like
this is the album where you found your niche. I would
Yeah,
say.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I feel like I've grown since then, but it took a minute to top that record. I would say that I didn't top it with Inevitable Crushing. It was a dope record in its own right, but
Right.
it wasn't on I'd Still Fly Your Favorite. I really was my and it got called that a bit too. Like
Yeah.
actually the homie from that started Audio Recon, like I said, he at the same time they were reaching out. I was like, oh man, I already got this deal with the Sick Records label, and he's like, well, he was just focusing on digital only before anybody knew how to get their shit on iTunes and that sort of thing. So my homie Eric Brown, who started Audio Recon, was just focusing on being a digital only label. And so he reached out and he's like, well, I just want to release it digitally, like and help you get on iTunes and all these things. So he had a deal with Iris Distribution at the time, and so which is super cool. And So anyway, yeah, he often would call it my magnum opus too, and like he's like, man, you need to, hope you could top Fly Your Favorite on this next record. It was always like it was always the one that I had to one up, and I feel like
Right.
I might have did it, and the people could argue that the Jabber box was maybe my next
Right.
for the predecessor to it, so to speak.
Just
So,
think about how Nas feels after he released Illmatic, and people were like, "There's nothing like Illmatic," you know.
right, right.
You know. So this is like
Well,
your Illmatic. You know, you have to top it. It's kind of hard. It's not the easiest thing
it
to do.
in the yeah, it's a matter of perspective too, right? Because I
Right.
mean, artists grow, but you become a fan at a certain sometimes you become a fan of someone's work. It's something about that. Well, maybe even like early in their career when they're young and they're experimenting and they're trying new things, it just hits home. I think a lot of people say that about a lot of artists, right? They're like, oh,
Correct.
they'll never top their first record or their second record because they were young and just trying different things and creating something that was super unique that you can never go back and do again.
Right.
You're growing as an artist and you're creating different types of music, but it like when you're young experimenting, so it captures a moment in time too as you're developing. So anyway.
So let's talk about some of your other projects in
Okay.
between and after, like the project Done, which features No Marslevik, Slap, Marcello. What can you talk? What can you say about that project?
I love that project. I can't remember how it came about exactly. I think Marcelo was kind of the glue in making that happen. He was the producer. Now he goes by Nebula 78. He's from Brazil, and I
Right.
think he kind of linked us all together. I don't know, because I didn't know who Slap was before that record. He was the MC from Germany in that project, but it was all
Right.
done online. We reached out to each other. I remember my parts of the record. I was living in my house in Star City at the time, and I remember coming home from work, and most of the stuff I did for that record was in the moment, sort of freestyle. I'd write a few things down and just have ideas, and I just like record my part on the fly without a lot of thought. I kind of tried to do a different approach to it where I wasn't overly obsessing over each and everything like I do on most of my records. Where I'll have 12 drafts before I come to the final piece of work. So on that one, I just know I was winging it for the most part. I'd come home and I'd do a verse to one of the songs off of that, and it was
Right.
more on the fly and kind of in the moment, and a lot of it freestyle.
And for a short project, it's only 8 tracks. It's dope, super dope. Like Brainwash, The Path, Blind John. I mean, so like all of them. The bonus track, Covered in Smoke, is so ill. Um, it was kind of dark too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like
Uh,
that. I like stuff like that.
I did too. I think we were kind of running off of a concept where Nomar was doing like homages to like old songs, like the doll parts,
Right.
in let's fuck the I don't know this every day it's a getting closer. He's just reciting those lyrics and shit. So yeah, I don't know. It's like it was a dark kind of dystopian sort of weird record that
Yeah, but it's dope though, without a doubt. It shouldn't have been called Done. It should have been called DOPE, dope, right? Oh.
Well, you'll be happy to know we are officially working on a new record, a new Done record right now. I don't know if no more.
Really? That's awesome.
Yep.
How far are you into it?
We have I I've recorded a verse. There's three
Okay.
beats floating around that Nebula has sent, but everybody's in. Slaps agreed to it. Nomar's
Right.
in. It sounds like. So we'll see how it goes. We years ago, right after that record, we talked about a follow up, and we had some kind of concepts floating around, like maybe like a year after that record
Right.
or so, and it just kind of it sort of faded away. So we'll see. Sometimes those things they start off hot and then fade away, but I'm hoping it happens because I think once again Marcelo or Nebula is he's sort of the catalyst for it. He's been sending beats, and the beats are definitely more uplifting. He's getting it's more 808 sounds, and he's leveled up as a producer too. The dude's just evolved. He's doing some really cool stuff, sonic soundscapes, and it's inspiring to write to. So so I've written to one, and I'm ready to write to the other one. But I was waiting for Nomar to set it off so I can follow his
Right.
concept.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you guys are a really good combination. Usually it's hard to find combinations like that work. And with this, you can tell like everything, or like you guys are all different puzzle pieces, and it fit really perfect.
cool. I really like
Uh,
the path on that joint. The
yeah,
warrior, the path. That was
the
my favorite
Warriors
one.
dope, man. That's just
Yeah,
that's really dope. Talk about Creatures of Habit. What's that about?
All right. So Creatures of Habit's me and Richard Cook from Worm Music is his homegrown label. He's a homie from Indianapolis. Well, he's actually lives in Fishers, which is a suburb of Indianapolis. He grew up in Indianapolis, though. I mean, he lives in Fishers now. I met him on after getting with Audio Recon and starting to play more shows in Indianapolis. Eric was trying to sign or help his group out. He was kind of a staple in the hip hop scene in Indianapolis with his group Justice League, and he had a couple different groups actually, but Justice League was the big one. They were true school boom bap hip hop group from Indianapolis. Cook came out to one of my shows for Audio Recon. He was there to check out the show and to talk about the label deal, what it was going to look like, and for us to release their digital music. And I remember meeting Cook for the first time at that show, and him coming up to me and being like, "Dude, I never buy anybody's CDs. Local artists." He's kind of a hater. He's like very niche, only likes what he likes, and is in his own lane. And he came up to me and like shook my hand and bought my CD and wanted to, and he still tells me this today. We're still like best of homies.
Right.
I've inspired him and this and that. So we linked up through Audio Recon. He did like a remix, I think, first for me that before he met me, like someone sent my vocals to him and said, "Hey, you've got to check out this dude." And anyway, so we hit it off. He did some production on the Jabberbox for a couple songs, and around that time we started talking about how well those two songs worked together, and he ended up being I assigned him the executive producer role of that record.
That's dope.
And it was kind of the first person since high school that I was able to link up on face to face and do music with, and we just gel well, man. He's more of a tradition. He's older than me. Dude's a couple years older than me, and traditional, like true school head. Like he's not as, he likes different left field stuff musically, but more from his hip hop. He's more boom bap guy, and very, like I said, very discerning taste buds. He's not very he can't hate on. He's not as well rounded or doesn't like, I like a lot of different shit. And
right.
He's easy to do. Nah, that's not for me. Discard.
You're more eclectic, and he's more on one path, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. Not to say that if you met Cook, he's definitely
right.
He's an eclectic dude, but when it comes to like his hip hop, he likes it a certain way, and he's
right.
very much a preserve and perpetuate. Yeah, traditionalist, preserve and perpetuate. He loves,
right.
Which is kind of ironic now because he was very, very sample based, do it the old school way, follow the rules type deal ish. Now he's not even sampling. He records with he's sampling, but he's sampling him playing the instruments. He's creating music in a way without having to sample records. He's playing the guitar parts and playing bass and shit like that and sampling, but and chopping it down. But he's he's an enigma, the Richard Cook. So anyway, that we met through Audio Recon, and it just gelled well. So it was a no brainer to do a project, and we did. I would say that Creatures of Habit, it just happened, instantaneously. Basically, we just it was like one track after another. Like, hey, yeah, let's do this. We worked well together, and I was loving his production style. Was pretty straightforward and inspiring. It was easy to write to, and it was able me to kind of flex my MC skills, and not. I mean, I still have my eclectic, edge and twists on things, but for the most part, it kept me. It was fun to make a rap, make raps about rappers and our disdain for what it was. Sometimes I like to joke about it being me really looking in a mirror and battling myself. Like I'm really fucking picking apart shit that annoys me about myself and about the shit I'm into, like I'm battle rapping myself just as much as I am anybody else.
Right. Self-inflection, right?
Right.
So what about random art projects? What's that about?
So we became a group. Was that 2008-ish, maybe 9?
Late 7 or early 2008, maybe? Was that?
Yeah. So that was actually my cousin. He's like 10 years younger than me. It's a second cousin. We didn't really know each other growing up or anything. I knew his parents, or his dad and my dad, and his dad had, 2 brothers that they all my dad and his dad's, or his dad and uncles all ran around together and modified snowmobiles and shit and raced snowmobiles and like back in the days before we came about, they were really big into music. His parents were into music as well, and found out like my dad was not a musician or anything. He just loved music, and he used to run a promotion company with this dude, my cousin's dad and his uncles and stuff. And so we linked online, actually, even though he was just 20 minutes down the road. He's much younger than me. I didn't really know him that well. I just knew of him. And he was in a noise band at the time called Tramage Voyix. I was showing him my music, and I noticed he was doing this stuff that was kind of like it reminded me of like what Cloud Dead and Reaching Quiet and Green Think and those dudes were doing, really collagey, weird kind of rap stuff. But he was definitely not a rapper. I could tell, like, he was trying to rhyme and do, but he was definitely doing it in a really left field experimental way. And he's trying to take elements of rap and mix it into with this experimental stuff he was doing. Like, oh man, you should check out, and I showed him my music, and he was like, oh wow, like we should link up. So anyway, we got together, just him and I, Matt, and recorded a couple songs on a whim one night, and became like, the first song was called Random, and what the fuck was that other one? Anyway, so basically the core of our first 2 songs, and he basically brought in all but one of the guys from Tramage Voyix to kind of bring those 2 songs to light, like with instrumentation, and started evolving to more songs we would record, and we started playing live shows, and next thing you know, we were a band. So it was a 5-piece band of dudes. They were all 10 years younger than me and more not in the rap world. They were experimental artists. Their band before was just noise, art, experimental stuff. So we were trying to do something a little more accessible. Like, I was like, our thing was like, let's make music that makes people dance and party and have a good time. So it was like more electro psychedelic dance stuff. And we put on these like, pretty epic shows where, we called them dance parties, but we were performing it, and everybody would, dance and get down and shit. And it was unfortunately a really short run of stuff. I really loved that. We had some really, really good moments with that band where I thought like we, had something going. We gelled well musically, but when you get 5 artists in a room, and like when it comes to like actually trying to push the music and sell it, there was a lot of disagreement on how to get that music out, and which is why you don't see it online anywhere or anything like that. It was kind of we put out 1 CD, and I think we did like a mail order for it, but nobody really could come to an agreement on putting it out digitally in any and we just had a falling out over that. And
Really? Why is that so hard to just like it's either you do it digitally or you don't? Was that kind of the thing? Somebody didn't
yeah,
want
but there was a bit of a. I don't want to go to the
I know.
major.
I'm not
Yeah,
trying to
there's a
burn
lot
your
of personal
bridges,
stuff about
but
it, but for the most part, I'd say the big disagreement would have been uh, the fear of someone taking advantage or stealing your the work in general. I'll just put it like that. We had a band manager at the time that was very, very concerned about intellectual property rights and that sort of thing, and how much was invested in the studio that we recorded in was essentially Matt's college fund. Instead of going to college, his grandparents had this money set aside for it or something like that, and ended up buying the studio, all the studio equipment, and it, anyway, our band manager was also our photographer and it was an artist herself, and yeah, there was just a lot of concern about if I couldn't put a picture up that she took online, that was her photography. Like I just couldn't just go randomly go putting it online
without her permission and all that.
Without permission and her approving it and stamping it, and it was just a lot of like I was more myself. I'm just loosey goosey. Who cares? There'll be another song and there'll be another album after this. I don't care. That's the point. If it leaks and people hear it, great. There'll be more to come.
Right.
So I had that. I was a little more seasoned. Like I said, they were much younger and trying to figure things out. And I feel like and I think that too might have had something to do with it. They didn't have. I was strapped with my job and my kids and this, and like I think they had aspirations to take it to the next level too at some point in time, maybe tour, and it wasn't in the cards for me at that time. There's no way, I could do little one-off shows, but I wasn't going to hit the road. And so ultimately it, I think maybe lasted 2 years, and then they ended up spinning off and they had another little somewhat regionally successful project that spun off of that came after that. So I've tried to reach back out to those dudes, man. We made some really dope stuff, but it was what it was. Point in history, I guess now. So
okay, so talk about Who's Your Apex. What's that about?
That's a project with Cook from Creatures of Habit, me, and Branimal. It's an MC from Bloomington, Indiana, and the producer Ace Ha is originally from Indiana. He grew up with Branimal from in the Bloomington area, but now is out in LA. Producer in LA. That came up. I really back history on Branimal and Ace Ha. I knew those dudes when they were in Indiana. They were in a rap group called 5 Star Industries, and the only reason I knew is because they were my brother is 2 years older than me, went to Ball State as well, same college I went to. And Branimal, I can't remember what he went by at the time, and Ace Ha were in this dorms with my brother, and he's like, man, you'll like these. There's a couple of rapper dudes in my dorm that you really like these dudes, and they were doing like at the time, like it was when Fushnikins were popping off in DOS Effects and YBT and the riggedy rap style.
Yeah.
So they were doing like some like on some YBT shit but I was like infatuated with these dudes because this is before I had equipment, before I was at Obelus. I'm talking like mid 90s ish. And so I knew of these dudes. Matter of fact, when I stayed at my brother's one time, his roommate went to high school with these guys. I grabbed his, like, late at night one night when everybody's passed out or whatever, I grabbed his tape and dubbed it. Dubbed like the 5 Star demo.
Without them knowing.
Demo tape without them knowing. I still have it to this day. And
That's dope, man. YBT was a dope group too, to be honest. I mean,
I fucked with them. They had like freaking Hank Shockley produced their first record, and like there's some like it was a weird name. It was kind of weird concept, but but the 80s, right?
Right.
My rappers had to do something to kind of to fit in, I guess.
You couldn't do that now. You get in trouble right now.
No, man, it's not. It doesn't make any sense.
Get canceled.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's how I knew those dudes. But I don't know how we actually linked up, but I think the concept came about from Ace was saying, I always wanted to, I know Ace was the one who came up with the group name. Hoosier Apex is like a dialect in the southern part of Indiana. Apparently, it's like this. It's called the Hoosier Apex dialect. He just thought that name sounded dope for a, if I ever had a super group from Indiana, that's what I'd name it. And,
That's a dope name.
and we became, that's how the name came about. But it was just us talking online about, hey, we should do a project, Indiana based. And so I don't know if we all picked samples for this. I know I picked the sample selection for the final track, the Chips and Dip joint. It seems like we all picked production and topics like to discuss. Like, hey, sample. I know I threw him the sample for Chips and Dip and the concept. I was the one who come up with the concept and pitched it to them all. So let's write on this. And I think that's kind of how we did each and every song, the 4 songs, right? Is one of us threw the topic out there and did the jump off and it came to be what it was. So I really liked that. That was one of my, like, I felt like when Level Up type deal, I felt like that. I thought that was, it's unfortunately really, it ended up only being 4 songs. So it's like, fuck it, we're just gonna put it out as it is. It's a project. And
Right.
always wanted it I always wanted to do a follow up and eventually make a full length of it, and just never came to be.
Is it possible still, or is it?
I would say so. I still talk to, I don't know about Branimal. He's a professor at university, and I know he's not putting out anything in recent years, but I mean, I feel like once you're an artist, you're always an artist. So it's probably possible. We're all on good terms. I talk to Cook on a regular basis. Every now and again, I reach out to Ace. He's still out in LA and still doing production. So, and I know he'd be game for it because, it's nothing but love there. So it's possible. Sure.
Gotcha. So I forgot to ask you a question when we were talking about like your origin story, and how you got into the hip hop game. Because I know that I wasn't initially into hip hop. I was into metal first, and then eventually I got into hip hop. I mean, hip hop was around me because I was in New York, but I mean, I wasn't like following it like other people were.
Right.
Were you into other things too, like metal and punk and all that?
Yes. Coming up, in the details of how I got into rap. I mean, I was into music as general. I remember listening to my mom's 45s when I was a kid. But really, the first music that I really fell in love with was rap music. And my older brother was also into rap music, mid 80s, early 80s. We, both watched Yo MTV Raps and were into it. One day, my brother hit a light. When you're young, you just kind of latch on the trends, right? One day, my brother just hit a light switch. He started to like metal more. And he's just like, one day, he's like, you know what? I hate fuck rap. I'm a metalhead. You can have all my rap tapes. Like literally, it was like he just hit a switch one day, and he gave me like this. And he had a master because he had a job, a job at a store. So he had a massive bunch of rap tapes, and I inherited all of his.
That's dope.
So I liked. He would show me metal all the time that he was into, and I would only, some of it just wouldn't resonate, but it would be certain things that would. So like I would, liked a little bit of shit. I'm like, okay, I dig that. I liked Overkill. I liked Slayer's Seasons in the Abyss. I like Pantera, Vulgar Display of Power. So like different records I like, and then that'd be one I'd listen to if I wanted to listen to metal. As I went to university and dabbled in the doses era, I really started to expand my musical palette. I started listening to really more experimental stuff and more left field stuff. I got really big into Ween, and just all types of different left field experimental music. So I'm pretty open book. I've always been a rap head. I mean, at the core, I listen to rap music, hip hop, 90% of the time. But I do dabble and listen to all types of music. Now my wife share a lot of similar tastes in some music where she'll there's a lot of stuff she'll be like, shut that shit off, like that I listen to.
I got you. Yeah.
But most of the stuff she listens to, I did. Right. So
I got you. How long have you been married?
We 20 to 20. It would be 22 years. It'll be 23 in October.
That's cool. I'm gonna hit 27 in a week. So
Nice.
yeah.
Congrats.
Oh, I want you to do something. Okay, so do you know? I know you know Rain and Blood, Slayer's album, Rain and Blood.
Yep.
Okay, so it was released on Def Jam and it was produced, by Rick Rubin, right?
Right.
So I want you to listen to it like this. Listen to it like it's the first horrorcore rap album.
Okay.
Because Tom Araya, the lead singer, literally, if you listen to it, he raps on that album.
No shit.
And if you listen to like the tempo of, I mean, because it's like one of the fastest albums ever, but if you listen to the tempo of it, it's a hip hop album, dude.
Yeah, I need to revisit it.
Hip hop album, dude.
I need to revisit it. I definitely wasn't ready for it because what year did that drop? Right,
86.
86. Okay,
I think so. Yeah, 86. Rain and Blood. Seasons in the Abyss, I think was 88 or something, 87, 88 or something.
Yeah, I need to. I'll revisit it then. That's dope. Okay.
Yeah, check it out, man. Because I was listening to it the other day, and I mean, he raps in that shit, man. And there's times where the tempo slows down, and it's very, very much hip hop. But anyway, how would you describe your style? If you had to describe your style to someone, how would you describe your style as an artist, not just as an MC, just as an artist in general?
Oh man, that's difficult. As an artist, I say my style is kind of stream of conscious, at abstract, surrealism, or avant-garde, experimental. I would use terms like that, I guess. I just whatever. I try to dig deep. I'm not when it comes to as far as how I write. It's hard for me to write and I have a lot of respect. Sometimes I get in my own head that so I'm not on that level because I can't write like so and so. Because I would love to be able to write a really descriptive story, but that's not me. That's not how I end up putting pad to pen when I'm writing. I end up just kind of digging deep. I try to take tiny observations and piece together like songs that way, and but sort of tell a story, but in like an otherworldly way, right? So
I got you.
Anyway,
and so like, who did you pattern your style off of if you had to choose someone? I don't want to say copy because I mean every like you said in the beginning, every artist starts off imitating their favorites and then eventually they branch off and do their own thing. But who would you say your style is very comparable to or influenced you?
Man, I that's hard because I feel like I think it's really a building block of all the artists I've listened to over the years. I try to that's when I really look within. I feel like that I can't because I'm always really trying to not sound like someone else, always just be my true self. But I feel like when it comes to like how I pattern my bars or and stuff, I'm definitely taking influences from like Freestyle Fellowship and the Anacon guys and Hieroglyphics and all these like mega influences, but also the golden era shit that I come up on and the freaking the booty bass the MC Shidees and shit like that I grew up listening to. So like I really say I can't pin it down to one particular one, and I try to do that. I don't know if it comes across in the music, but I'm always trying not to make every song sound the same, especially on a particular project. I want different emotions and tempos and stuff. I'm all over the place. Maybe it's ADHD. I don't know what it is. I'm all over the place type of guy when it comes to the type of music I like to listen to. So that's what I kind of try to recreate. I want to keep things interesting and not to say there's not a place for something with a specific and kind of continuous mood throughout a record, but I'm a really scatterbrained guy, and that's when it comes to my creations, that's how it comes across and the way I like it. So
I got you, brother. And so when it comes to like again being an artist, are there any particular themes or messages in your lyrics, anything that you kind of go back to often when you writing your stuff?
Not, I mean, just like I said, more personal. I try to, it's a lot of mental, like, I try to keep music. I try to make music fun, and thematically, I am talking about generally how I feel, about the world and how I view it, and yeah, I don't know if there's like topically. I try to I don't try to talk about the same shit over and over again. But I think I do generally, I guess uh, a lot of it's kind of psychology stuff. I guess like human psychology is really interesting to me, and what makes people tick, and how we interact with others. So I think I have a general theme of of how the human mind works, and how we interact, together as a species, and so I feel like that's a common theme across the board with all my stuff.
So you would say that like there's no throwaway rhymes.
I wouldn't go as far as that, because I mean, I I try not to take myself too seriously. So yes, I mean, I am I like to play with words. So when you say throwaway rhymes, yeah, I mean that, like I said, that Done record was me coming home and just I would have probably thrown away all those rhymes really if I allowed myself to do that, but I didn't want to. I wanted to just because I think people receive music, or it impacts people in different ways. Like, I'll put out a record and be like, oh man, that's the joint, this is the song, these are going to be the 3 hits on that song, album. But then you listen to it and you tell me that, no, oh man, this is the jam, and I wouldn't have thought that was.
Right.
So it's like I feel like, yeah, I do whatever comes natural. I do this shit for fun, and if it hits, it hits. If it doesn't, it doesn't, and it's on to the next one type deal. So I'm not too egotistical to think that my shit's can't not be throwaway, because I'll throw away.
I got you.
I'll put shit out there that probably should have been thrown away.
I got you, man. So as an independent artist from the beginning, talk about some of the challenges that you've had to face, like some of the glaring challenges as an independent artist, like the obstacles that you constantly kind of ran into.
Yeah, just standing out amongst an ever like growing sea of artists, right? There's just there's always. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm a pretty humble dude. I know I'm not, on a level of some of my peers and artists that I'm really big into. So it's just like standing out amongst this bunch of people that are making great music. I mean, I feel like there's, for every very popular artist, there's 100 artists that nobody knows about that are 10 times better than that popular artist. So not to say I'm 10 times better than a popular artist, but I'm just saying it's just standing out, I guess, and yeah, getting heard amongst the herd, right?
Right. But you got to at least think that you're 10 times better than some artists out there.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a matter of perspective. It's whatever you like, whatever you're into. So,
and what were some of the things that you learned from being an independent artist and having to face these obstacles? That let's say if you were to give somebody advice that's coming up, like what would you tell them? Like, don't do this.
Right. Man, I'm the last guy to be giving anybody any type of advice on how to do it properly. But I guess the stuff I've learned along the way is you got to figure out how to do things for yourself. And if you're trying to make a living off this, for one, I stop taking advice now, because I'm not making a living off of it.
Right. That conversation's over right there.
Right. But you know what I'm saying? If you're I have learned, like I've found more comfort nowadays in not setting high expectations for everything, I guess would be my advice to like a young budding artist. I had really high expectations with Fly Your Favorite, right? I took my entire tax check and pressed 1,000 CDs at the time. I still have a box of those 1,000 CDs, or maybe a box and a half of Fly Your Favorites still.
Well, I have one.
Yeah, well, if you need another, brother, I got a stack of it. Maybe it's down to a box, but yeah, I mean, but that was giving away 3 of those boxes of 10 boxes or whatever, right, at least. So I mean, I had really high expectations and ambitions at first. And it's like now you know, and that's depressing. I've taken a lot of hiatuses with my music because it didn't stick like I thought it would stick, or I'd start to get some momentum and starting to develop a fan base, and then it just boom, that fan base dies off like on the next release type deal. Rebranding does a lot for that too. Like when joining the random art projects and Creatures of Habit, it's almost like you really are starting anew in this online world when you rebrand or join a group and your name isn't like front and center. So a lot of that momentum is just lost instantly. And I found now, like as an artist in my 40s, late 40s that I'm happy just to be able to create, and I'm trying to do it just because I enjoy it, and like with no expectations. I want to make a dope project. I want people to like it. I want to put it out there, and hopefully it'll resonate with people. But for the most part, all that shit aside, as long as I'm able to do this and do it for me, that's all that matters to me. And I try to keep that perspective.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed a lot about the artists that I've talked to, the artists that I follow too, is the fan base is so fickle. But also the culture, which I want to get into with you, is how it's changing. I don't. Some of my friends get mad at me because I say there's no hip hop culture. They say there is, and I understand what they're saying. That there's still people like yourself and them. They still put out material, but it doesn't have the same weight of that golden age. Because to me, okay, so like the '80s, hip hop was being introduced to everyone. It was blowing up. Then in the '90s, there was like the schism. You had like the commercial and you had the underground, right? But the underground, to me, they were able to sustain themselves. They were doing shows, they were touring, they were going overseas, all of that. And then it seemed like they were about to break through, and literally the dick got slapped in the dirt. A lot of artists and groups split, and then there was like this. There wasn't this passing down of the baton, and now you have this new culture where you have this snitch rap, mumble rap stuff that's just, on my honest opinion, is fucking horrible. You got people making millions off of just garbage music, peddling, the worst things that you could to kids and all this stuff. Like, how do you feel about all the culture now?
I have mixed feelings. I'm with you. I feel like it's with every generation, just shit changes, right? And I feel like now with the internet and now it's becoming more of a, in the late '90s, it was just this new exciting frontier. Now it's allowed for just all these different facets or different hip hop related subgenres, so to speak, comes to light. So I'm with you that it feels like a bit of a lack of culture. I feel like some of the nostalgic fellas like myself are like with the pandemic and everybody was like forced into their homes, and we all started to kind of reconnect with old friends and artists because hey, we have a little extra free time. We can put together a song. We're not like I didn't have to commute back and forth to work.
Right.
I feel like it kind of sparked a bunch of artists from that era when it was really, I felt like the culture was budding, and yeah, like you said, it kind of got slapped back down. So I don't know, man. I'm with you. I hip hop just celebrate 50 years though. I mean, I think this culture exists. It's grown so much that it's sort of created this sort of now pockets of different types of hip hop. You can't be a fan of all of it, right? I mean,
right.
And I don't even hate on like the shit that you're calling garbage, like all of it. Like I've found some of the newer stuff that I've really sat down and kind of forced myself to kind of like try to listen to it from a kid's lens, like, okay, we're talking like these are, this is a 20 some year old guy. What would I be rapping about, in this new world, in this new generation? Like, the world's different now.
Right.
I get, and now they've got all these things at their fingertips that they can create with that we didn't have. We had to be more innovative, and we had to, really make do with what we had. So there was a lot more, it seems like maybe rawness to what we were doing back in our day because we had to make do. But now they have the possibilities are endless with what they can do with the technology at their fingertips, and people make some pretty fucking dope beats on their fucking phones now. I don't know, like culture is kind of it, I've never been, like I said, I've always been this dude in rural Indiana that was infatuated with this culture that was kind of an outsider of anyway. So I'm looking at it from a different lens than someone who might be a purist that was, born in a city and came up in hip hop culture and had a community of others that were involved in the culture. So from an outsider looking in, like I find my ways to find, what part of the culture I want to be a part of. And I think I feel it's alive and well. I've got a Rolodex of 50 homies that I stay in touch with probably that are heavily involved in this music and art and are still trying to do stuff and always take it to another level. So and when I say another level, it's not necessarily means blowing up. It just means, continuing to do it for as long as we can until we die, type deal. So
do you see it returning, ever having that golden age ever again, or you think that's gone, or is this the new golden age for the next generation?
Maybe, yeah. I feel like there's always going to be elements of the past that kind of come back into favor, but there's always going to be different phases. Like aging is what, I think Epic had a record, aging is what friends do together. Like we're aging, and like, hey, the next generation of kids are going to be doing something different from their predecessors, and it is what it is. We can't be stuck in the past. We've got to, hopefully I'm seeing some, promising signs with some of the newer music for some of the younger generation is doing some, it gets watered down for a minute and then people start to wait, that's bullshit. It can be done in this much more creative way than that. So I even think with the mumble and trap scene, there's some artists that kind of stand out in that okay, wait, this guy's doing something a little more creative than the other guys, and so, anyway, I think it ebb and flows, right? I think, when you say golden era, that's define golden era. I really liked the era of the late '90s and the early 2000s, but also I also can fall back. 1988 was a fucking great year for rap music, hip hop. That was when I really, really was. Yo MTV Raps came on MTV, and it was everything I heard was amazing and new and fresh.
Yeah.
So I feel like there will always be, and it's how it resonates with you at your, it's kind of a kid's game, right? When you're discovering music at a young age. So yeah, the next generation will probably have what they consider the golden age. And maybe some of them, when they turn 30, 40, be like, man, when Little Wee Wee was coming out, man.
Little Wee Wee.
It ain't like that anymore.
It ain't like that, right? They're gonna be like, yeah, this new music sucks. Right. All right, so before we call it a day, I want to switch gears here, right? Because I am a fan of paranormal and conspiracy. Have you had anything weird happen? Seen anything weird in the sky? Ghosts, shadow people, any cryptids, Bigfoot? You run into any weird shit? What did you think of the scandemic? I mean,
not as far as paranormal, I can't say that I've ever experienced anything like that. I used to be kind of into that show when I was younger. I just not, I'm so busy with my work and life, and music is kind of my infatuation, and then so I don't think anything paranormal has ever experienced anything paranormal. What I think of what do you call it, the scamdemic?
Yeah.
It was I don't know, we got through it. I feel like hopefully we're on the other side of it. I'm not gonna formulate an opinion of how it started or whatever. One thing that bothered me about it all is because the divides it caused in our country specifically, in general. We were already divided, I think, socially to a degree, and kind of the media and politics does that. by design, I feel. And I felt like that even more so, the pandemic caused even deeper divides amongst people, whether, to vax or not to vax. And, and it's like, do you buy into science now? Like I'm, I believe in science, but, anyway, some of my good friends, we, had big, heated debates over it. And I think it like probably allowed to, really divide some families.
Yeah.
So my biggest takeaway is that it's fucked up that we get so deep into our own beliefs that we can't like see things from other people's perspectives and just like, hey, we all had to make a decision for our own selves and families, whether we, what we thought was the right path forward when we're living in really fucking scary dystopian times, right? So we're all gonna die,
Yep.
whether it be by a pandemic or by a vaccination, or so it is what it is.
I got you, my man. So last thing, what's next for ID Obelus and Audio Recon? What do you have planned, or what are you working on now?
We're working on the new Done project. Like I said, just got one track deep into that. I'm working on a new record with the Dreadnoughts, as I mentioned earlier.
That should be dope.
It is dope thus far. It's basically an album's length right now. I think it's just some final touches and need maybe some more vocals and some parts. I have a project I was recording on this morning that with producer Dren from Saskatoon. That is going to be like this little. I'm pretty sure we're going to release it free. It's homage to a classic. Well, I say classic, but it's a very rare Indiana psych private press record. That's this year would be its 50th anniversary. It's also hip hop's 50th anniversary. I always wanted to have some producers sample this record. It's called Zerfus. So I've got Dren has produced this for me, and I'm actually pitching it to Oblio to do some vocals on as well. And I got in the bag and getting ready to. I think we're gonna tentatively. I'll go ahead and this will be probably. I don't know when this is gonna drop, but the first announcement of it. But in May, I have a project called Fresh Air with the producer Rove from Saskatoon. He's also a dope graffiti artist from Fredo Files and CBS Crew. And AWOL One, also sharing MC.
AWOL One from the well. Shapeshifters,
Private Blow, yeah, legendary. So it's like huge honor for me to be on a record with AWOL. So we call it Fresh Air, A for AWOL, I, Obelus, and R for Rove. And that record's in the bag. It's just a short EP. We're going to be releasing it on vinyl and probably some CDs as well. And I think early May is when that's dropping. Audio Recon got a lot of stuff in the works, man. I don't know. AudioRecon.us. It's that label. I focus mostly on the other artists. My solo shit is back burner, just pet project stuff. But with the Fresh Air project, would be probably the first vinyl that I put out on the label of my own stuff. But we can't announce. I've got some stuff in the work that we can't really talk about.
Who are some of the artists on Audio Recon that we should look out for?
Yeah, I would say Audio Recon just is the backstory behind the label in general. It's not we don't have like the artists are freelance, right? I put out music by artists I love. So some of the stuff is reissue work and some of it, some new records. So I wouldn't call us like in the old sense of a label where they were these people were loyal to this label. I've released records by people that release records with other labels too and stuff. Serengeti is kind of from Chicago. Is an artist that I've worked with since the inception of Audio Recon as a physical format label, and about 2017 was when I took over the label and started putting out physicals. Serengeti was like how we really got our start 10 years after we were a label, right. in the digital world and shit. So always scheming with Dave with Serengeti. He's one of the most dynamic artists I know. Anybody who's knows Serengeti knows he's super diverse, and you never know what to expect from him. I mean, I guess he has different characters. He goes or different styles of music. He'll have like a series of things. He does the Kenny Dennis side of Dave, which is his storytelling personality. Are you familiar with his work at all?
No, I'm not at all. I've heard of the
Oh
name,
wow.
but
Oh
I've
man,
never.
you need to take a deep dive, my brother. He's got a deep catalog and he's all over the place. So it's like if you hear something you don't like, you let me know. I'll tell you not to check out this, and this, but you should check out this, and this.
I got
Like
you.
he's all over the place stylistically, works with a ton of different producers. So always have stuff in the work with him. I've reissued his past work. He's got something new in the works that I might be releasing. We've been talking about. I just dropped a 7-inch with him. That's more a pop. He does some stuff that's like pop, kind of left field pop rap stuff ish. He does do some sing-songy stuff that you couldn't really categorize as hip hop. But as my homie Chap says, like if you've ever done a rap or a rap album, you're always a rapper, or you're always
Right,
hip hop, even
right,
if you're doing a punk album or
right,
rock
right.
album.
I agree.
So like Slayer, they're hip hop now for life because they've
Right.
done a rap record, right? Anyway, so yeah, we got AWOL One's new records come. It's already the pre-orders out there. The Scribble Face is his new record, which is a phenomenal record. We're lucky to work with him on that. I partner with my homie Sean in LA, who runs Ooh That's Heavy Records on a lot of these West Coast dudes releases. I know most of the stuff I've got in the works. Some of the stuff's not announced yet, but we've got a lot of albums in the works. Last year alone, I think I released 22 vinyl
Wow.
records on the label and stuff. I think it was a pretty freaking crazy year. So we have I don't know, take a dive, man. We deep
Yeah.
catalog. We reissued Eli's Grey Crow and As They Pass. Was that all last year? Grey Crow was last year. As They Pass was the year before. But we've been doing these luxury gatefold. They're heavy back vinyl. We did the same for the Escape Artist first record. They're a little pricier, but it's
Worth it though.
Collector's item. They're gold foil stamped and shit. Really nice, like quality records and shit. So, yeah. I'm trying to think of any releases I can really talk about. There's definitely lots of stuff in the works behind the scenes. Actually getting ready to launch a website. It's going to be it's not an audio recon page. I'm taking over an old web store that will be sort of a storefront for my label and other people's labels, because I collab with a lot of different labels across the globe to make these records happen. You know, it's a tougher game nowadays. We have to scale back pressings, and regionally it's getting really tough for shipping. You know, it's $30 to ship a record overseas. We're trying to find strategic ways to release records because, you know, the fan base for the stuff we do is pretty sparse. You know, 20 guys maybe checking for a record in the US, where 20 guys in Canada are checking for the same record, and so same in Europe. So it's like to spread the love, we're trying to be strategic and team up with each other. And so this website I'm working on is going to be kind of like a resurgence of what we were talking about earlier. Those old mail order sites. We're going to try to see if that'll have a footing in this new age where people are starting to kind of get nostalgic and get back into physical formats, where some of us never got over it.
Dude, as much as I love digital because of, like, let's say, the sound and the easy access, I still love physicals. I love to see the liner notes, the artwork, that sort of stuff. So I think that it's gonna come back.
Right. And I feel like we really got the last 2 years. I've seen it. The label's grown. It's been, obviously the artists I'm working with have developed their own fan bases and shit. And with each artist that I release something by, they bring another subset of their fan base that's following, looking for what we're doing. And yeah, we're finding like-minded individuals that totally feel the same way. They want to touch and feel their music. And I could care less about that. I mean, I like the same way I listen to digital music, but I'm not trying to be someone's broker and release their music digitally. It's so easy for an artist to do that themselves nowadays.
Right.
I'm trying to help someone bring their shit to physical format. So then we find ways that we all pitch in together and make it happen. So sometimes I'm 50-50 with an artist to get them, get the record pressed, and then on the strength of their fan base, we try to recoup the funds and move on to the next one, man. So
all right, my brother, thank you so much for doing this, man. And keep me in touch with all the projects. I'm gonna check out Serengeti and his stuff. But yeah, bro, keep doing your thing, man. And thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, man, and big shouts to you. I'm glad you reconnected with me. Yeah,
Yeah.
keep in touch. I'll follow your podcast and listen to it. Hopefully you'll be able to scale this one down to a
Yeah.
manageable.
No, there's no such thing, dude. I'm gonna cut out the part where you had to go get the power cord, but that's other than that, everything's staying in, bro.
Oh no, well, I'm sorry for your listeners, man.
No, man, no, they need to know who you are, man. They need to know ID Obelus, not ID Obelus. ID
Hey,
Obelus.
however you want to say it. Appreciate it, brother.
All right, brother. Much love.
All right, you too.
Peace out, brother.